Okay, we'll just do an overview of the Pixinsight interface. So, firstly, we've got the file menu, which unfortunately gets covered by the Process Explorer, which I'll talk about later. If we just go up to File, you can just open any format, virtually any, uh, broad, picture format like TIFF files, FITs, you name it, RAW. That's what I like about the program is it opens up all your RAW files, although it doesn't display previews as you'll see in a second. But simple double clicking anywhere will bring up the open screen, and then you can then navigate to your. So we're going to work off a directory for the Leo Modark site, the Star Party. Worked off there. Get out of there for now. Can get a bit deeper there. Image I was getting before about. I thought edit was how you sort of do a lot of the image stuff, but no, it's here that you can do a lot of the image stuff. So if I just bring up one file, just bring any file up. I don't know. I have no idea what I'm bringing up here there, but image. Let's have a look at image. Yeah, there's not a lot really that I use for edit here there. View. I don't tend to use that either. I use button clicks, so I'm using the middle mouse button here, and I can drag around there using the middle click button on my mouse here, so I can drag around and zoom in. Very intuitive, very quick. Let's bring it right there. Go right, right into look at individual pixels there. This is a very old Eda Karina image. 20 seconds, wow. So we were image, yeah. So I'm finding what I use for image generally is convert to grayscale if you'd like to do that. There's a few functions here for extracting a lightness mask out, splitting all the RGB channels. You can see how quickly it works. So you can see how a very basic looking program can get very advanced really quickly. I use a fair bit of geometry, so upside down. I can undo here. What else do I use a fair bit? Yeah, rotating. Horizontal mirror is also very useful. Go swap there. So they're the main image editing areas. I'll just have a look here. Nothing here I use other than the symbols that we'll come up with in a second. Preview boring there. The key one I want to show you is processes. So most of the Pixinsight engine is set aside into processes, scripts, and largely those two there. Processes. So all the things that Pixinsight does is either a process or a script, or I'd also say a mask as well. But the quickest way to get to all of these though is over here on the left. So the Process Explorer. You can scroll around. So you've got all of anything that I find of use, I automatically click as a favorite. I select it as a favorite. So you can see there's quite a few processes here that I love to use, and I sort of if I either use it often or if I read about it and I think, oh, I want to investigate that later, I'll add it as a favorite. And to add it as a favorite, you just go here. So I tend to do a search in all processes alphabetically. So super bias, which is quite a snazzy new super bias tool. It comes up with an ultra high res bias file. It's super bias, so it's literally look for alphabetical. So you go all the way down here and find super bias there. Right click it, and you can remove from favorites. Right click, add to favorites. So let's have a look if it works. So it's not there because I didn't add it back. So I'll go all the way back down, add to favorites, go back up. supervisors. There it is. There, yeah. So it gets very confusing with all of the processes. But if you keep the favorites as the area that you really concentrate on, you can get rid of all of this confusing look here. So there's scripts which are categorized, say, as rendering scripts. So there's the annotate image script, which we use to create, the annotated image for labels for all the different galaxy numbers and so on, NGC, etc. Image and some really snazzy things here in, let's have a look, development, no, multi-channel synthesis, that's right. So those of you who want to get into narrowband imaging, as I hope to do one day, there's combos there to create your multi-channel synthesis, set up your channels. So that's the main thing. So quite often here I lose I don't know how I do it, but I must, I've lost it. I can't find the process explorer. So it's process console, which just shows you the processes. I go in and view Explorer windows, Process Explorer, and I get back my Process Explorer. So you basically live and breathe off this area here. Okay, I think that's it. So there's all your same processes we were looking at on the left. They're just categorized here. So this is another way of discovering. So I've literally gone through every one of these myself and explored each of the areas that look interesting and look useful. And if I find something that I like say image, let's have a look. Dynamic PSF, which we use in probably deconvolution, I've seen. If I like it, then I add it through here. So image, where was I looking at? Dynamic PSF. So I've added it there. So I've used this area a lot to just explore. And then I Google, read and research, work out whether it's a useful tool or not. And also in the forums, you see other people talk about tools that you end up, if they do talk regularly about a tool, like I recently heard about the mask stretch tool, which seems to retain the star colors very well. Then I literally Googled that. Mask stretch, where is that? Well, of course it will be here. But if I Googled it and I talked about mask stretch and I couldn't find it, originally it wasn't up in here. So I just literally went to all processes and looked up M for mask stretch. There it is there. Cool. So that's the overview, I think. Let's have a look at resources. Resources, yes, as help files. You can check for updates, but although it does it automatically. Community, there's a Pixinsight forum, which is fantastic. Cascade windows I find very interesting, very useful. So if I bring up another file, so you can window cascade them, or you can tile them. And look at the differences and see I've clipped the blacks a little bit more here on the right than on the left. Yeah, window. Yeah, you can capture a screenshot if you want. Yeah. Scripts. So you've got processes, got scripts, which seem to be programmed collections of processes and other magic stuff. So scripts, I don't use many scripts. I'll show you batch preprocessing, which is stacking, image integration and combining, stacking. There's another, let's have a look at what other there is. There's development, analysis as aberration spotter. You can, I'll just do this quickly here. But aberration spotter is really snazzy because it can, it takes the far corners of each image and does I think it takes 100%, excuse me, 100% image of each of the areas and lets you have a look at what's going on across your focal plane there. I'll cover this all later, but you can see how most of the scripts, they tend to be more complicated programmed routines that are sort of, I consider them as non-Photoshop. So all the processes tend to be like equivalent of Photoshop, I suppose, in a way. Scripts are probably somewhere where some of the magic of Pixinsight occurs, and I think that's where you get the really good value for money in the program. Okay, now I'll show you how easy it is to stack some images. When I say easy, I mean you can just use all the defaults in Pixinsight, but there's quite a lot of parameters that you can change if you're very brave. So what we'll do is I always do this, I go File, Open, and then I realise, well, I'm using a process script, so there's no point in me opening a file because I'm using a process script. So actually what we do is we go to the Process Explorer and go to Batch Preprocessing. So you can see the indicator says there's a little cog on the wheel. So all of the scripts are here, the magic cogs. Dark structure enhanced, which I actually love that. Batch Preprocessing, so double click it. And here's your area that you can add your bias files. We won't discuss bias files, okay, everybody? Let's just do it for now. You add your darks, add your flats, add your lights. You then check if everything's going to go okay. If it says that it's okay, then you run. It's as easy as that. The only difficult thing I found with this process is you must click this when you're using DSLR images. When checked, the batch processing it's under the assumption that all input frames have been mosaicked with a color filter array pattern, such as a Bayer pattern. So I must use that when I use DSLR because or else I end up with pretty well mono images. Really annoying. There's lots of other options here which I haven't tried, I haven't used yet, so you experts can tell me whether or not it's worth using. If there's at least 8 images in each of these areas, then you can use Sigma clipping. And per Harry's Pixinsight tutorial, he's got some fantastic videos which I've certainly included in the overheads of the presentation. But Harry's been instrumental in me learning Pixinsight. It took a lot of watching his videos, but he's got lots of good suggestions that, just like I'm trying to do in this video, just demystify it by showing the video. So if it's got up more than eight or more images, then you use Sigma clipping, and I tend to use Windsorized Sigma clipping. Don't ask me why, I just do it because I think Harry does that. If you've got fewer than 8, then it will prompt you to use percentile clipping. Of course, you can use no rejection, and there's a number of other ones that I'm yet to discover more here. So this is what I meant before. It's very easy to use, so I could just go ahead and run once I've selected my images. But you can see how so if you do min-max, you can then specify here some parameters. And everybody uses Pixinsight always talks about how really the only way to learn it properly is to practice it and just try what ifs. So if I was to use min-max, wow, look at that. So here's a good summarizing of all of the different methods. So let's have a look at min-max method can be used to ensure rejection of extreme values. Where are we? So yeah, so basically fiddle with these min or max figures here. So I'll go to Windsorized. So I've got my sigma low parameter, my sigma high. So if I wanted to, I suppose, include like this comet stacking possibly, you might fiddle with these parameters a lot more. I've never touched them at all. So now we'll go to add some images. And excuse me because I haven't prepared this for a while, so we'll just give it a go. add bias images. So it's just simply go through here. This is what I was referring to before, where you can actually bring up and select your raw images. So everything can be done in raw. However, it doesn't actually do a preview for you. So what I have to do is I have to use a combination of Digital Photo Professional for, say, my Canon camera, and preview the image and just cross-check what numbers I'm selecting, like 5378, 5379, and so on. And then I just select it through that way. So that's precisely what I'll do. I'll go back to here, and I'll just triple check again because you always have to be careful. So we'll add bias files. Look at my file structure now. So I've got an area where all my bias files are in the WAR area, and it's a 40D. So I'm just going to select all my bias files. So there. So bias, combination, well, yeah, it looks like it's average. We'll leave that at average. Winsorized sigma clipping, because I can use, I've got 8 or more images. I'll add darks now. This is where the fun bit's going to start. Darks, I'm not particularly worried about. It's the flats I'm more worried about, because I think I may have issues with my flats. Yeah, now let's go through. So we can check here. So here is my good old 10-minute exposures in a DSLR with my Epsilon 130D. So what I'm doing now is looking for some darks. Now, where would the darks be? That's interesting. I haven't put any darks in here, so we'll go up here and look for darks. Oh, there we are. There's the 130D 10-minute cold. That'll do for now for this exercise. I may have sourced some other images before, but I've got a feeling I may not have got many 10-minute images. So now I know to go to my dark area and there. So now I go back into Pixinsight and go to DSS, go to darks, and 130 at 10-minute cold. Just bring those two in there. We'll just leave that as for now. For you smarties, you're probably thinking I should be... Oh, what if that's automatically done that? It's pretty... Oh well. Flats are the ones I've got issues with, because as you'll see, flats, I keep my flats in a directory here, and I'm trying to keep a history of them. So 20th of the 9th. See, that means flats with the light pollution filter on of the 27th of the 9th. That's flats light pollution filter latest, and here's flats previous. And my problem is that I'm going back to my star party images, and I can't be confident that any of these actually match the specific date of the images I took. So it might slightly be off, but for now I think I'm just going to use the flats and flats previous, because it makes me think I might use this one too, because that's pretty close to the date of the star party. I might go for that, but there's a qualifier there, as in if it's not perfect, it's just because I've just got out of sync of my flats here over time. So we'll go to flats clear. So go back into Pixinsight, add flats, go to DSS, go to flats, and we'll just use those. So we just select them all. Shift, that was shift and click. There we are. Add the lights, it's the last feature. So we know we're in DSS, and we know that we're in this particular directory. Yeah. Now I have to go back in here, and so I can look at things a bit better. So back into the same directory. Oh, yeah. Insufficient memory. Big honk, isn't it? So we're going to select all the 10-minute ones. So that's from 5378 all the way to 5393. 5378. 5393. I think it was 5393, wasn't it? Yeah. Never trust myself, so I always double check. You don't want to end up with a whole combo. The good thing with Pixinsight is that you can also add images of varying intensity as well. So I could select even more images and do the bulk stacking, but I won't, for simplicity's sake, won't do that today. So bring that through. So that's done. Bias, darks, flats, lights. I do a diagnostic now because it will check if I've done everything right. Whoops, I haven't specified an output directory, and whoops, I haven't registration reference image. So for lights, you have to pick at least one image as a reference image. You do that by just highlighting it and double clicking it, and you have to tell it where to spit out the master images. So where does it output these processed images? So you click on this, and because that's the right directory, so this, we have to assume we're all working on separate dated directories. So this is the one I was working on, so it is going to spit out all the outputs to directories. And don't be afraid if you've got a directory with just nothing in it. It will then create the directories. It will create a calibrated directory, a master directory, a registered directory. So I'll just say yes to that. Then I do another diagnostic. Whee! Interesting sound effect. I don't find that to be a nice sound effect. And then we click run. Then it goes through and it says you performed integration. Please keep in mind the light frames integration functionality script is just a convenience feature, which included I think it's just warning that you can use it's got a separate image integration tool. You can do it. You can do this whole process manually. It's not too hard, but I'm too lazy. And it just goes away and chugs through and shows you all this really great detail of what it's doing at a time. So back again, this is quite good actually because it shows the beginners some things that happen. It's come up with an error saying that it can't integrate more than or less than 3 frames. So that's the problem here. So the highly technical workaround around this is to go to image, say 5511, which is a dark. We'll go to darks, isn't it? 10 minutes cold. And we'll copy it and paste it to create the 3 images. So we'll add darks. Darks. Oh, what's going through there? I've got myself lost again, so I'll just go back to recent places. DSS. There's my son. You might hear my son in the background there. 10 minute call. There it is there. I'm doing a video, Dylan. Do you want to be famous? Say hello everybody at the Astro Club.
Hello everybody at the Astro Club. My name is Dylan Waters and I'm your friend Simon Waters' son.
Good.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Add this copy. So that's interesting. So you do a diagnostic and it tells you it's all fine, and in the end they do say that this is still beta, some of this. Yeah, I think that's a feature they need to add. to the software to actually prompt you to make sure you've got more than 2 images for all of them. So it's now integrating the channels. So it's in the final stage of processing. So it takes about 5 minutes, I find. Even with a fairly complex image, 5 to 7 minutes. So it's always go away, make a coffee, or pour a glass of port time. And there's a bit of thing with Pixinsight. It's not perfectly customer friendly, user friendly. So you come up with this, if you go away and make a cup of coffee and come back to this screen, it's not very sort of, it doesn't give you much affirmation that it's done anything other than possibly that it's now got all this mystical sort of files that have been created by the system. But if you go to, do you really want to exit batch processing? Yes. But if you go to open and we go back to the directory we should have been in, which is LMDSS, it will have created a master directory and it will have created a light binning file. So anything that's called a light binning is your master light file. So that's it there. So again, it's not the most user friendly thing where you have to you have to try and work out yourself. Oh, now where would the image have been created? Well, it wasn't registered. This is where all the registered files are. So they've all got an R against them, meaning registered and calibrated. These have got C's against them. So it's created all these directories, bayed these files, and yeah, it's created it. So that's the magic file there. We can use a tool called screen transfer function. Double click this to link RGB channels. I always unclick it because if I click it, I come up with strange results here. And I click it. That's my telephone. And over here there's an image registration section which has the now quite famous drizzle functionality. I'm not going to show drizzling today. I'm yet to dither my images. I'm using PhD2 for guiding, but I'm yet to use any software for actually viewing my camera output through the PC. So once I start using that, like APT, that Paul Leitchen's recommended to me, once I start doing that, I'll be able to dither. But here's the registration parameters, pixel interpolation, a whole heap of stuff which I haven't even touched yet. But you can see how flexible this tool is, and it's even more flexible if you use the separate image registration and separate image integration tools that are available in Pixinsight. So this is like a batch pre-processing script, but there are separate image integration tools. And what did I say before? Oh, yeah. So the way you do it separately normally is you do a star alignment first here. So there's even more options here to do your star alignments. Start with using star detection scales, star matching scales, and interpolation. So there's a huge amount of variables, which I have done. I've used this separately in the past, especially you doing HDR imaging, but there's really no need at this stage. There's a general drizzle data. So you do a star alignment process, then you do your image integration on those files. So the files that are created by the star alignment will then be used by the image integration, where you'll add the files here. with quite a lot more features and algorithms. So you can see there's plenty to just get your teeth stuck into if you want. And here I've brought up the an earlier produced deep sky stacker version of the image, and here is the Pixinsight version of the image. So at sort of fairly wide views, there's not too much difference, although I can already spot, just even without zooming in, that the I think the contrast and the crispness of the stars is that much better in the Pixinsight version. But what I'll do is I'll zoom in a little bit and look into a little bit of nebulosity area, which I think most of us are always after. So that's relatively cropped area. So when I look at both of them, I find there's more noise in the DSS version. The dark areas are that much crisper. And the image full stop is more subtler graduations. So all I've done with both of these is bring the raw TIFF file into Pixinsight and done an automatic stretch. I haven't done anything else to this. I haven't enhanced the image or anything. When I look at, you experts would be able to tell me what this area is. It's a beautiful area. When I look at that, I see a smudged mess on the left, much crisper area on the right. So I did a comparison a while ago between DSS and Pixinsight, and I remember going away thinking, wow, yeah, I'm really pleased with this, but now I'm even more impressed. So that's quite worth doing. Let's have a look, see if we can zoom right in a bit. Right into that area. And I'll do the same here. It's about right there. There. Now, yeah, I can't compare the two. The two are noticeably different. There's a lot more detail in the really faint fuzzy areas. Yep, so that alone for the stacking is worth it, I think. Some interesting little imperfections here. Let's have a look at that, see how it's been treated in both bits of software. A lot crisper here. Yeah. I could do this all day, just compare different areas of the screen, but I won't. So now once we've got the new image, the new TIFF or the fit image set up here, we can start to apply some of the magic in Pixinsight. Now there's certain order that things normally occur. This Process Explorer is not in that order. So you can, when I was first starting, I would just simply go through and start here and end there. But that's not the right way to do things in Pixinsight, apparently. You need to convert the image from linear at one point using the histogram transformation tool, and once you've done that, then only certain functions work best once that's occurred. So yeah, from what I read with Perry's tutorials and so, an obvious one to do right now is the dynamic background removal tool or the extraction tool. So we'll show you this one. This one is for us, especially us poor pollution filtered, light pollution affected people. This tool is worth the price of admission alone. The tool itself is around about $400, about €290, I think. And just for the DBE, I found once I'd started using it with the demo version, it sucked me in, and I really had to keep using it. Actually, before we do the DBE, we'll do the dynamic crop, which is a complicated way of saying crop. So we get there. So you just to crop. So Pixinsight highlights the areas where the the stacking has produced a a gap. So I'll just crop and just press the tick. See, gone, done. Now the next thing to do is to save it as. Every time you do a new new stack, it will save the file as light binning. So the first thing you do when you work on these files is straight away save it. So here I'll save it as demo and fits. Lots of formats. So there, now I've got demo fit there. Now I can play with this and not lose it the next time I do a stack. If I did a stack, it would write over the image there. So now that's cropped. Now we can do the background extraction. So this is particularly useful if you're in light polluted skies and you've got these huge gradients. This is taking in Leon Mode Dark Sky site, so there's not much to remove. But I'll just show you how it works. So you basically you just click in one area to activate the whole tool. Harry's tutorial talks about increasing tolerance to 0.9, so I automatically do that. And then you can go around and you tell the tool where you want it to sample the background gradient of the image. If there's a substantial background gradient, the tool will remove that gradient very well. That's very dense with stars, so you learn quickly not to do a background removal where there's a dense area of stars or nebulosity. You can use a sample generation. So I've been doing that quite a bit lately, and I just create 25 samples per row and I generate. There it is. And the tool's smart enough to know the areas of fairly dense luminosity that aren't going to have a huge gradient. And you can just hover your mouse over a particular tool, the little indicator cursor, and you can drag them around. It's quite relaxing and fun. You can do that for hours. Just moving these. And on the right you can see the enlarged area of what you're actually moving to. So you can see if you're going to put your sample right on top of a star, which I often do. Like that. I could do that for hours, but I'll just leave that as I think that's pretty good. In target image correction, you tell it to subtract and you tell it to go. And it generally doesn't take too long. Interesting, when I did the steep sky stacking, the stacking the same series of image, it actually took longer than Pixinsight. It took something like 10 minutes in the end. So here's the background that was applied. So now I'll go to the STF again, the stream transfer function. I'll tell it to stretch the image. And there you can see the background that it's actually removed. So it's done a fair bit of work. I'll get rid of that. That's the new one. That's the original one. See what the new one looks like. Ugh. We'll get rid of that and we'll window tile it. So, contrary to my own assumptions, I think it has slightly changed the image. It's slightly darker in the background areas. Yep, but it's done it, which has worked pretty well. Yeah, you can see the stars are standing out a lot more. Nice. Yeah, so we'll just close that down. Oh no, not before we close it down. So that's the new version. So we'll just save that as the demo. So every major change, every risky major change, I'll then save it as a different name if I think that I'll want to go back to the original. But that's good enough where I can abandon that one. Now, what next? We'll do, where is background neutralisation, which again is most useful in light polluted areas, and again is worth the price of admission of about $400. But you're getting all these tools for all up, inclusive $400, stacking and superior image manipulation tools. So here we just, here I don't have to, but I always do it anyway. I just tell it the image that I'm going to work on and click. And the good thing with the tool, like with most Windows tools or anything, you can always undo. So Control Z or Control Y. So now you can flip between the two and see what it's doing. So that's with it, with the neutralisation on, off, on, off, on, off, on. That's fine, so I'll save it. Now, another tool I use, which lots of people have to use, is the green removal tool. There's other tools available in all the different software packages you can get. This one just happens to be called SCNR, which I can't remember what it's called, but it's a long name. So I just apply it. Yeah, that's quite a strong effect there. Off, on, off, on. Certainly on the screen here, it's quite a strong effect. And you use this green removal tool repeatedly during the whole process, because right now, again, this is just with the screen transfer function. So this function, which is temporary, it doesn't permanently stretch the image. If I turn this image off and I bring it up back over, double click. If I find the image again, let's try and find it. Where is it again? Where's it gone? It was demo, wasn't it? Yeah. It's not stretched. The SDF just temporarily stretches the image. And in fact, when you stretch from scratch, it can look radically different to what you were just looking at, like with that green processing tool. This is now substantially better than what we were looking at before. I think anyway, a lot better. Let's have a look. Okay, so now per Harry's Toots, I'll do a color calibration adjustment. So it's here, color calibration, double click it. Now this is slightly more complicated than I've been showing you. So what it does is it takes a white reference area and generally will highlight a series of stars that we think are white, and then it will apply that white balance across the image, your target image. So the reference image, you can create a preview by pressing Alt-N, Alt-N, and pick an area which you think is white. Good luck. I might just pick these little series of stars here. Then in the reference image, you can tell it to pick preview 1 there. And there's preview 1 there. Okay. And the reference image for the background is the whole image. So I'll just pick up the demo. There's a whole heap of other functions which I'm yet to explore more. Click the little box. Then you think, oh shit, what's happened here? Oh, whoops, scripts. That's not looking good. But what you can do is you save it as, we'll save it as demo 1. And just go skew if because of the screen transfer function that we've got. So that's a lot better there. We'll get out and bring it back open again. And what am I doing? Oh yeah, the screen transfer function again. And already you can see without the screen transfer function, things are looking quite a lot more vibrant, I think. Yep. Don't be alarmed by the screen transfer function is a very crude tool to use. It stretches extreme. I'll be a lot more subtle when we do the stretch. Yeah. I can't tell if... well, let's go back again, maybe. Let's have a look at... Bring back the original one. Demo, wasn't it? Demo. There we are. We'll apply a stretch to that. And window. Tilet. Demo 1. Well, that's the new one. That's the old. Yeah, there's some slight colour different changes there. Just very slight, very subtle. But that's what I like about the tool. It's subtle. It's not extreme. Yeah. Now, see what other things that I could do before I actually stretch, which hopefully some of you experts can tell me more. I'm still a bit unsure about what to stretch before, what to use before and after stretching. Like, I've tried deconvolution, which I'm probably not going to cover today. I've tried it before and after. Before, I get really weird results. And after tends to be better, but I don't think it's the right way. I think I'm doing something wrong. HDR composition, you can. I don't think you can. I don't think you'd want to do that before. We've done histogram transformation. I think we'll do pretty right. We're doing everything. This is what I do. I just skim through to think, what have I done? What haven't I done? What would I like to use? We've done pretty well. I think I can stretch now. So what we would do is do just that. So we'll open up the last version again, demo 1. What is it, demo? Yeah. Or was it demo 1? Let's open recent. No, it's not demo 1 because it's an earlier version I'd saved before. So now we'll bring up the stretching, just in case. But I'll just show you what I learnt recently. Normally I would bring up the histogram transformation. So this is the tool that permanently stretches your image, unlike the screen transfer function, which is temporary. But I've since learned that if you do a masked stretch first, it retains the star colours a lot better. So, yeah, noticeably better, I thought. And so this will be interesting because this is an older image I'm using, and I haven't used this tool on this M8 version. You can do samples of your target background, how dark you'd like your background to be. I've tried this before. I think it's going to take me hours to learn this. So what I do is I leave it as default. So leave that as default. Background reference is the target image. We do demo. And then leave it. Let it stretch. Let it chug through. And yeah, I found that by applying this first as a subtle stretch, it seems to retain some of the scar colour a little bit better than most of us are used to. Well, it's doing lots of activities here, isn't it? Interesting. It's an interesting look, isn't it? As I said before, demo, I'm going to call it demo 1 because I'm a bit worried about what it's doing, but looks okay to me. So that's the first initial stretch that it's done. Now, what we'll do is we'll bring the screen transfer across. Ooh, pretty. Like that. It's a lot more star colour. Heap more star colour in this. Really good. I really like this. So that's temporarily stretched the image. This histogram is sitting there looking at the image there. But if I do a preview, yuck, really nasty, isn't it? That's because it's just a preview, isn't it? But yeah, this is a permanent stretch. That's a temporary stretch. I'm not very confident in really doing stretches myself. I find I get really lost really quick. I start playing with these buttons around and very quickly I end up with horrible looks, and also I'm a really lazy person. So what I'd like to do is copy the stream transfer function's parameters, which it's come up with here, and I drag it down here. See? The problem is now that you've got a histogram stretch and a screen transfer function stretch all being applied at the same time. So I tell this one to go away and it fixes it. You can see there's a lot of problems with color balance coming through here. But we'll cover that in a minute, hopefully. Look at that. That's nice. I like the variety of star colours in this a lot more. Other than that, I keep staring at that. Ah! I'll have to crop it, or I don't care. Again, the original images I used would have had a perfect flat file. Where are we? Let's have a look. I think, yeah, we'll save it as. And I'll call that 2 now, because we're doing some pretty radical stuff to this image. Look at that. It's disgusting. Okay, bring out of this. Then I'll do another SCNR, because I think that'll clean it up a fair bit. File, save. And we'll do the histogram again. There. Now, you can play with your colours. It's looking like red's way off, isn't it? Let's get the preview again. I like to just look at the image rather than just match. If I match up all of these, I'll go absolutely loony. So I'm just going to play with the thing until I like the colour, which is about there. It's a lot better there. Yeah, I'm a bit cautious here about what to touch. I think we'll let's have a fiddle anyway. It doesn't hurt, does it? Bring that back there. Yeah, see, that's a lot nicer. Do the red. See, that's far too red anyway. I don't like that. That'll do. Again, we're just doing a demo. And in case I've gone mad with the green again, I'll just remove the green again. Yep, that's a lot nicer. Okay. I wish it actually, it says the amount of seconds it does. It's just not obvious when it's done and when it hasn't done. There. Let's have a look. What else? I'll show you a tool I've been using a bit. Lovely dark. Where is it? Dark structure enhance. It's snazzy. Amount is fairly nasty. I think you want to get it right down to at least 20. It's a good tool. It can be a bit aggressive if you're in the wrong hands, but it's yeah, it does quite a smart thing with the image. It's exciting watching it work. Do a Control Z and Y again. Ah, see how it's changed the contrast in all the dark areas. Bring it right in. Mm. Oh, there it is there. So that's with it on, that's with it off. On, off, on, off, on. I like that. Of course, what I should have done is done a proper full mask, a luminance mask, that would stop, because let's have a look. What have I done? What have I caused here? So if I go Control. Oh, it's smart enough to pretty well avoid destroying the stars. I like that. But yeah, if I was getting really anal, I'd be applying a full mask to this area here, which you can. I think we've done pretty well. Let's have a look what else we haven't covered. I won't do unsharp mask. Unsharp mask is a fairly aggressive tool. You can use it. Again, you'd want to mask heavily. Where is the... always problems and find these things again. Let's have a look at the star. Star mask, no. Morphological transformation. This is very effective in adjusting your star sizes and increasing your contrast in your image. So, amount, let's leave it at that. Let it chug through. And look what it's done to my image. That's fantastic. Not good. So yeah, thankfully they have a good tweaking area. So I'll bring it down to there. That's hardly worked, has it? Control. It has slightly. So you can see even at 16%, 0.16, applying it just slightly reduces the star size, which means the background contrast is, the darkness is that much better. Might try it. About 27%. That's a more noticeable effect, wasn't it? So if you look at the nebulosity, you can see by reducing the star size, it actually emphasizes the nebulosity more. It's not so distracting in the middle there. I don't know, it's much of a muchness. Again, you could play with these tools for hours. I might bring it back down to 19. Yep, I'm happy for that. I'll do anyway for demo purposes. So now we'll do a saturation adjustment. Although it's pretty saturated as is, I think. Yeah, as I say, I like the subtle look. So, but I think we can show it and show you how we use it. Before we apply it though, we normally apply a mask so we don't end up with saturating all of our noise, because here I am with my lovely DSLR noise. It's not too bad actually. It's not too bad at that level. It's because we're at the dark sky site on a pretty cold night. Not compared to bloody temperatures now. It's so noisy right now. Let's have a look. So yeah, we normally apply a mask. So there's a tool here. Extract the CIE luminance component. So it's done that. It's created a mask effectively. So when we do the stretch, it will only stretch the lighter images, lighter part of the image. But now I've got a little bit better with doing it, so I'll play around with the histogram of the luminance mask. It's there. And preview, of course, I get confused all the time looking at it. Then we can darken things quite a bit so that we only look at the adjusting the saturation of the really brightest areas. That'll do for this purpose of this. Get out of that. So now we can drag that into there. Oh yeah, I've got that. So you take this little tab here, drag it into there. Duh. See, I'm still rusty myself. Yuck, look at that, that looks horrible. But at least it's telling us that we're going to be adjusting the luminance of the stars rather than the background. But if we click on here and then click up here, it can hide or show the mask. So we can hide the mask. Now we can do our curves transformation. There, preview it, and play around to our heart's content. Play around. Whee! Doesn't it? Oh God, makes me want to vomit. That does. Whee! Now I'm just gonna fix that and just do a subtle one here. Okay. There. We have to remember to remove the mask. So there's the mask gone. There's the mask sitting there if we want to use it again. Yeah, so we can just go Control Z to see what it was, and Control Y. Yeah, there's a fair bit of stuff going on there. There's a lot of nice colouring. Save that. And, oh yes, we've got to cover the last most important one, the noise reduction, which again is worth the price of emission alone. And the wavelet transformation, or the HDR transformation. It's very good. I think we'll do that now. So you can produce HDR images. So you can add your own files here, and it will combine it into a HDR image. It's very powerful. I've used it for the Tucano, the 47 Tucano image. It's great, but I won't show you in this one here. But the multi-scale transform is a tool you use for extracting any detail out of your images if you don't have, you know, multiple HDR related images. De-ringing was always popular, of course, unless you want horrible looking stars. And we'll just give it a whirl, see what it comes up with. Love how it tells you what it's doing. Yeah, look at that. So we'll Control Z. See what it's done? Helped you extract out some of that very bright, over sort of bloated look. So you see much more subtle graduations. It's quite nice. It's quite nice, but it's pretty strong. What I did when I posted my final image of the M8 from the Star Party, I did a bit of Photoshop work as well. So what I did is I layered this version underneath the underneath that version, and then just played around a little bit with some feathering to get a little bit of detail where I wanted to detail, and minimise the sort of the bleached, not the bleached out look. I don't know what you call this look, a sort of fairly flat look, but you can see it's pretty snazzy. It is a pretty good tool. I'll leave it as that for now. Maybe actually what I'll do, overdrive, you can play around with that. Also, lightness mask, using a lightness mask helps from memory. It's one of the rare cases where I start to fiddle around with the actual options in the feature. But I think using a lightness mask helps a lot. Yes, it's a lot more subtle now. Nowhere near as extreme. Like that. File, save it. And the last feature I'll show you today is the noise reduction feature, which is very, very good. Again, I bought it just for that almost. We'll do a lightness mask to it, so it'll automatically apply a lightness mask in this case. I have in the past used my own luminance mask as well, but it seems to run pretty well. Harry recommends around about 3 for, oops, wrong 1.5, 1.5. Yeah, he reckons 3 here and 5 here. And apply. I find the noise reduction, it is very good, but if you're not careful, you can really smudge out your image. So I think a lot of the experts here do layered approaches where they might use a luminance mask very, very carefully. I'll show you what it's done up close before we go out wider. So look at that. Look at all the chrominance it's removing. And the noise. But I think that's too strong. See what it does. Oh, actually, it's not too bad. You get really anal and worked up on these things, I think. You know, like when you really inspect an image up really close, you might see some noise, but in the distance, it's not too bad. Just look into the which is the area of importance, which is the luminosity, the nebulosity, sorry. Just seeing it, just losing a little bit of sharpness in the stars. Yeah, quite a lot of sharpness in the actual nebulosity. See, yeah, I can see I'm losing quite a lot of sharpness there. So that's where I'd normally use a mask or layer the 2 images and fiddle around a bit. Probably have it unsharpened. I mean, yeah, I'd mask it basically. Yeah, but that'll do. It's certainly a lot better up close. It's just you're removing all those yucky artifacts. That'll do. So there you are. I think that will do for today. So leave it open to questions now. Thank you.